Frederick Douglass once says, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." It is important to build the foundation of the building in order for it to soar high in the sky. The same applies to people in our society. If they are taught and raised well, nobody can stop them from reaching the heights of success. Frederick Douglass' words convey that it is much easier to raise children the right way, allow them to be better people in the future, compared to trying to fix them when they are adults. President Barack Obama stated, "Any man can have a child. That does not make him a father. It is the courage to raise a child that makes him a father." He goes on to say, there is a difference from being a biological father and a father who's nurturing and taking care of his children. A father is responsible for taking care of their child just as much as the mother. It requires courage and strength and spending time raising them. This is what being a father actually means. It's also important to note that it's not solely the mother's responsibility to nurture a child. Children require both love and attention from both parents. We often say here at Fathers Forever that the best parent is both parents. Research and studies have shown that when fathers are supportive and involved in their children's life, it has positively impacts the child's cognitive and social development. Many fathers choose to leave their kids for other people to raise, not realizing the negative impact that could be on the children's well-being. We know that many of you are watching during your lunch break, so let's chat and chew while you do. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Glenn Warren, founder of Fathers Forever. We have a very exciting show this afternoon. In today's episode of Chat and Chew, we have our guest, former Wake County Sheriff Gerald Baker. Our topic, the crossroads of crime and fatherlessness. But before we get into it, let's take care of a few housekeeping items.
Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, hit the bell to activate notifications that will remind you when we're on. Please be sure to leave us a comment to let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Warren, founder and executive director of Fathers Forever. I want to share an alarming reality with you. 627,000 fathers are incarcerated that have kids under 18. Now, there are 56,000 moms incarcerated who have kids under 18. The reality is there are so many more fathers incarcerated than moms. This is why I Am a Father Forever book exists. Now, I need your help. I am inviting you to help us get this book into as many fathers incarcerated as possible. Here's how it works. For your donation of $22, we will provide a book to an incarcerated father. Thank you in advance for helping Fathers Forever heal fathers and save families.
Sheriff Gerald M. Baker retired from Wake County Sheriff's Office on December 5, 2022. On December 3, 2018, Gerald M. Baker was sworn in as the 54th Sheriff of Wake County after serving 28 years in law enforcement. Mr. Baker is a native of Wake County. As sheriff, he was a fearless leader and tireless advocate whose focus was to rebuild the sheriff's office on the following tenets of accountability, integrity, transparency, and consistency. His mission was to create a leaner, more effective office to better serve all residents of Wake County. Sheriff Baker strived to maintain a high standard of service even while facing staff shortages, a pandemic, and civil unrest during his tenure. Sheriff Baker also created a more diversified management team. He implemented changes in policies such as the chase policy, which decreased incidences that prevented deputies and innocent motorists from being involved in accidents. Sheriff Baker led an effort to bring the sheriff's office budget back into the black. He also provided leadership in the handling of historic processing of gun permit applications during the pandemic. Sheriff Baker is committed to giving back to his community through outreach programs like the Backpack Drive and charities such as partnering with the Salvation Army and Helping Hand Mission to help families in need. Sheriff Baker is a member of several local organizations dedicated to improving the lives of citizens throughout Wake County. He is also a member of Rush Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. During retirement, Sheriff Baker plans to spoil his only grandchild and relax on the beach.
Joining me in the studio this afternoon, please help me welcome former Wake County Sheriff Gerald Baker. Today in the studio, I am very happy and really excited to have our guest, Gerald Baker, former Wake County Sheriff. We've known each other for quite some time. When we first got started, way back in 2011, 2012, and the child support, you were the deputy that was there.
That's right.
When the guys was getting ready to be hauled off to court for not paying their child support.
Yes.
So you was there to put the cuffs on them, and I watched you kind of move yourself in a position when you saw what was about to happen. So we kind of go back a long ways, and I'm glad to have you in the studio with us today. Before we really get into the broadcast, I really want to ask you some questions about you. You know, tell us about yourself. Tell us where you're from and about your family and all that good stuff.
Well, born and raised right here in Raleigh.
Okay.
And graduated from William G. High School, and from there went to St. Augustine's College
Right
then.
Yeah.
And got over there and wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Mama calls, they pack stuff, your dad come to get you. And so I left there back in '82 and went to work, and life caught up with me as that does sometimes. When I got married and ended up having a little daughter, and we just kept working and being just being a husband and a father, and eventually chose to pursue a passion that I really had. I wanted to do, which was going into law enforcement. I actually wanted to go into the military. My mother was totally against that, and she was totally against the law enforcement thing too.
Really?
But yeah, at age 28, I said, well, I'm going
for it. Right.
So I did, and so back in 1990, I went and met with former Sheriff John H. Baker Jr. and sat down, talked with him, met with him, and he afforded me the opportunity to join the sheriff's office. May 11th of 1990, I started, and again started working my way through as a deputy sheriff, and from there went to patrol division. Started out in courts to the patrol division, from patrol division to criminal investigations, and from there I got promoted to the rank of sergeant, and then went back out into the field, patrol division, and then came back to court services. And all this was happening throughout the years up until the point where I retired after 20 years of service.
Wow. Well, so you answered one of my other questions. Okay. I was going to have you walk us through your resume. Okay. You just pretty much did that. Yeah. So look, what was your motivating factor that made you decide you want to be a law enforcement?
Well, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you hear a lot of people say that when they come in. They want to be able to help the community. They want to be able to help people.
Right.
And that's what it's about. But, there's a true and there's a bigger meaning and understanding when it comes to talking about helping people, because that means you got to be a person who's going to be willing to want to help everyone.
Right.
Just certain people.
Right.
You got to be able to make sure that you have a understanding of our laws and how to apply them.
Right.
And so that's something that I felt like I wanted to do, something I felt like I would be good at.
Yeah.
Again, helping people doesn't necessarily, in this field, doesn't necessarily mean locking people up and carrying them to jail.
Right.
So, that, again, there's a whole lot to this. And so that was a part of, if you can go to a call for service and you may have what it takes to make an arrest, but is that the action that needs to be taken?
At the time.
It may be a situation where you can refer someone to some other services that may help the situation outside of carrying people to jail.
What is your why? What motivates you? And again, what would you do if you didn't get paid to do this? If I know you're retired now, but what would you do and all day long, every day, and nobody paid you a dime? What would that look like?
I would love to do what I've been doing for the last 32 years, and that's serving and protecting the citizens of this county. That's a question that I ask myself daily. It's a question that I ask every applicant that come through that door seeking opportunity to serve this county through that office. Why are you here? What is it that you think that you can bring to this office to help us serve this county?
What are some of the answers you get when you ask that question?
Well, again, some of them are looking for jobs, and some of them they're saying that they're coming in the door and they want to be on the SWAT team or they want to do this and that. But you have to understand, you have to work your way to those things. It just don't happen once you get hired.
Right.
You have to be willing to work your way. Have goals that are in line with the organization's goal, not just your own.
Who are some of the people, local or in the history, that really inspired you, that really, made you be the person that you are today? Who were some of those individuals?
It begins, Glenn, with my father.
You know what? That's a question that I ask. I want to ask that question to all my guests, and a lot of times, those are the answers that I get.
Yes.
Either your parents,
yes.
sometimes are the ones.
Absolutely, because without him being the father that he was, the man that he was, he demonstrated and he did all he could to carry himself in a way to make sure that we saw who we need to be and the things that he was telling us in terms of the rearing and raising and the why and what you can and cannot do, being responsible and being accountable for who you are and the things that you do when you're away from home, all those things. So it begins with him. And then I've been very, very fortunate to have some very, very strong men in my life as I moved through life and jobs that were, people who were wanting the best for you. And didn't hesitate to make sure that you were being who you were supposed to be at all times.
Is your parents still living?
No, they passed away over the last 3 years. My mother passed first, and then my father passed about a year after that. So.
Yeah, I know your father and him will be proud.
Oh.
Had you made sheriff then?
I had. They were both living, and they were there that night when I was elected.
Yeah, I think I remember about that. So. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of people who haven't had that opportunity to have a good father and mother. But thank God we've been blessed to have that. So there's a quote I want to read to you.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what you think about this.
Okay.
I mean, you've been fighting crime, living in this world for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me preface this question. When a drug dealer sells drugs to a person, and the person actually OD'd over that drug, could that person who sold him the drugs be charged with a crime?
I think that's something that we need to look at. I don't know if it can be proven through evidence and through investigation that this
person
dealer
sold the drugs to have fentanyl in it, and this person actually died.
Yes.
Yeah. So the question is, when one who's fatherless chooses a life of crime, perhaps the runaway father should be charged with the crime of neglect. Okay, the one is fatherless means a man, boy, or girl, a woman, who grew up in a household without their father. And the reason why I call it a runaway father is because he's not absent because of a death.
Right.
He's absent because he chose to be absent.
Right.
Should that father be charged with neglect if the boy or girl get involved in crime?
I look at that, Dr. Warren, and it's almost in line with when you look at court-ordered child support, where the courts are by law forcing a father to support his children. And so when you look at this question, I think we're entering times, or we are in a time in this world where you certainly need to start maybe thinking about that and looking at it, because again, we have to make sure that we're responsible. We have a responsibility and a duty to be fathers to our children. There's no way around it, regardless of how it happened. Once that child is born, then that's when a man has to stop what he's doing and make sure that if he's a young man, he's now forfeited, a lot of young life and the things you experience as a young man, because now you're responsible for another human being. And so I think we have to make sure that, and what I love about your program, and I'm sure we're going to get to it, is we've got to get to a point where we've got to make sure that these young men are understanding, you can lay down and make babies, but are you going to be responsible for that baby once it's been made?
I want to call this segment the crossroad of crime and fatherlessness.
Okay.
When at that intersection, what happens at the intersection? I know you've dealt with a lot of young kids, young boys, who have been deprived of their father being involved in their lives, and now they've turned to the game, and I see you see all kind of devastation as to speak to that crime and fatherlessness. How do they intersect?
Well, again, just as we just finished speaking about, structure and stability, that part that comes with raising children where, the father's present to help that mother make sure that, the child is being responsible, being accountable, and teaching them right from wrong, things like that. When it's not there, then, the statistics do show, and the research shows that when there's more interaction in a child's life where the father's present, then there is less, that child is less likely to come into contact or have any contact with the juvenile system or jail, things like that. It's not always the case, but it certainly makes a difference. And because when you start looking at it, a lot of these mothers, they're trying to raise, if it's more than one child, and she's having to work, she's having to, to support the family on her own. And so there's a lot that comes to play here, because, you're trying to raise children in this household by yourself, and that missing piece is what contributes, I believe, and again, the research shows. To young people getting involved in life.
So when you look at it in the game world, little boys, they want to be by nature we have to be a part of something.
Yes.
That's why we talk about the Dallas Cowboys like it's our team. Because we have to be a part of something. So when a young boy, when a young guy, young girl for that matter, are not having that opportunity to have that father figure in their life, there is that void. There is that a lot of times that void is filled by joining the game, because now they feel like they need protection or whatever. And we all know, I'm sure you know more than we do, the life of what happens in the world of games, and how young boys are attracted to that lifestyle. And a lot of times it's directly related to the absence of fathers.
Yes. And so the gang is made up of these same individuals who were fatherless and grew up in single parent households where the mother was there, and they ended up finding what they were not getting at home in the streets.
Mhm.
Those gang members and those who run the gang, they identify that. They see that young man a mile away.
Yeah. Because it's the same thing they grew up with.
Right. And so they go and they'll begin to offer him the things he's not getting, starting with love. Believe it or not.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Yes.
And then, giving them money and providing them with that type of friendship and that they would desire from home, from a parent, that connection of being wanted and being cared for. It happens right there in the street, and that's what attracts a lot of them to that gang life because they're searching, they're looking for that family,
that belonging, that sense of belonging.
It's not at home.
And a lot of times it's also the protection that goes along with that. And so these young kids are out there, especially little boys. We growing up in a household with my dad. My dad. There's certain things we tell the guys all the time. The best parent is both parents.
Yes.
I mean, a child needs his best mom and his dad.
Yes.
And a lot of times when father's not there, kids they get away with stuff. I'm not saying the mom don't know how to raise. No. I'm not saying that at all. But most men ain't gonna let you lay up in the bed till o'clock in the morning, and you're not in school, you're not working. And a lot of mothers don't either. But we parent differently.
Yes.
And so a lot of times the absence of father is what makes this little Johnny think I could do what I want to do, and not be responsible. And moms sometimes have a hard time, raising them. That's why the best parent is both parents.
There's no questions about it, because at some point, that young man. Now he's lacking that structure, that discipline that will come with the father too, and even in times where the father would reinforce the corrective action from mom.
Right.
So that child knew that if mom said it and he didn't like it, well.
Right.
So but that's missing. So we're at a place where these young kids now begin to challenge mom and just say, get to a point where they're saying, hey, well, I'm going to do what I want to do. Ain't know what you're going to do.
Right.
A lot of them, the parents, the moms, do all they can, all the way down to putting them out.
Right.
Saying, hey, you're not going to buy by the rules, you got to go. And so where are they going to go when they go?
Right.
To the street.
To the street.
And
so, mom, again, we parent differently. Little Johnny is running around playing with the stove. Mom is rescuing little Johnny, telling him to stop. Daddy said, let him touch it one time.
That's right.
But that's the difference between us. Not to say mom's way is wrong, not to say our way is wrong. But there's a difference, and kids need that balance. Because if somebody's always rescuing him, and he's not facing the consequences, then little Jimmy is going to do the same thing that he's been doing. And for our little girls, they need that affirmation from their father.
Yes.
And if they don't get it, guess what they're going to get it from?
That's right.
They're going to get it from the streets.
That's right.
I was growing up, when I saw a girl that I wanted to talk to, my first question was, where's your daddy at?
That's right.
Because if your daddy was in the picture, I got to walk a straight line. Because I know, if your daddy, it's on now. Now, little Betty down the street, she may even look better. But I'm going to focus on the little girls that daddy's not involved.
That's right.
Because I know what daddy's going to bring to the table. And I don't want to tell you what daddy.
Of course. And
so it's important for us as fathers to make sure that our kids know that we do. And just because we don't live in a household with them, I mean, there's a whole, I don't know what the percentage is now that most of the people, a lot of people who get divorced now get married. I know that number's going up, that divorce. So there's a whole lot of people divorced.
Yes.
And so, which means that there's a lot of, different kind of households where blended families are there. And a lot of times there's a lot of households where moms are just there because the father go get married down the street and he forget about his family that he got over here.
Right.
And that's, so you got 2 or 3 families. I've met some guys who got 3 wives and 3 sets of kids. They got the set of kids that they're living with. The other set that they left 5 years ago, they got 2 kids, they're not taking care of them. And so you're responsible we are responsible for all of our kids, not just the ones we live with, but all of them.
Because of those 2 are factors, when you start talking about, when you've got children by different mothers, and they're all looking to see how you are dealing with each child, because, and then that has a tendency to foster resentment and things like that, and jealousy when they may look and see that you're doing more for these kids than you are them.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot that comes to play here.
That's you know, and that happens because when you look at and that's why one of the things that we do in our classes, we talk about unforgiveness, we talk about anger, and we talk about abandonment. Because when a kid, you know, you're on the same street, in the same town that you used to be my dad and live in my house, and now you done left us. And you go around the street and you got a new wife, you got new kids, and some of those kids are not yours, they're your stepkids, but yet you're taking care of them more than you're taking care of me. That's got to create some abandonment issues.
It does. And it also contributes to the behavioral issues that once they get to high school, get to junior high, and they get the issues that we're having in our schools now with young people who, they just, they're over there and have no regard, no respect for authority, no respect for the teachers, and, they're cussing the teachers out and everything else that you can think of, My dad told us that you may struggle with the lesson. When you come home, report card may have a low grade on the math or the English, but if you got a low grade on that conduct and that behavior,
which is one of the.
I'm gonna fix that.
I'm gonna fix that.
You don't go to school to learn how to act. You learn you leave.
Exactly.
That's the last thing that we want to see coming back in here. That. So.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm glad you brought that up. One of the classes that James and I teach in our curriculum is we have some statistics, and one of them says a study conducted by the CDC highlights that 85% of all kids who show behavior disorder come from the fatherless homes. So 85% of kids. Now we used to call it conduct. Now they done got fancy word to call it behavior disorder, but it's the same thing.
It is.
It's how you act.
It is.
And like you said, I could, you may come back with a C. Now, my dad ain't accept too many D's and F's.
Right.
But if you got a C, he may let you okay. But if you got it used to be a S and a U.
That's right.
The S was satisfactory and conduct, and a U was unsatisfactory.
That's right.
If you got a U,
that's right.
You can have all A's and B's, but if you got a U, you got a butt coming.
Oh yeah,
a kick,
yes.
A beating, because dealt with. You know how to act.
That's right.
Here's 3 ways you can support our Dads at a Distance initiative. Give a copy to a family member, our friend. Donate monthly, a book monthly, 5 books monthly, how many books you want to do monthly donation. Reverse book signing, your church, your business. You can make a donation go to our website at www.afatherforever.com and go to our PayPal at Fathers Forever. Our Cash App is $Fathers Forever. Make your donation today. Please include in the note section, include DAAD. Again, include in the note section DAAD. Wow, that was an amazing interview with former Wake County Sheriff Gerald Baker. He is a very passionate man about what he's been doing for the last 32 years, and we are so excited to have him come in the studio and to show his knowledge and expertise with us as it relates to fatherless. And we appreciate you being a part of our broadcast today. We know you could have been anywhere doing anything, but you chose to be a part of our broadcast. For that, I say thank you. Until we meet again, take care and have a good day.
If you or someone you know would like to be a part of the show, please visit our website at www.afatherforever.com or call us at 919-779-9905. The Chat and Chew podcast streams Thursdays at 12 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. To schedule a reverse book signing or to find out more information about how you can become a part of the programs you've heard us mention today, please be sure to stop by our website as well.